Let me ask you something. Have you ever experienced this in your classroom? You're explaining a lesson. You're doing your best. The first few minutes go well. Students seem to be listening. But then something happens. One student starts checking their phone. Another one opens social media. Someone else is staring at you, but clearly his mind is somewhere else. And as a teacher, you might start wondering, why are students today so easily distracted? But maybe the real question is not about the students. Maybe the real question is this: are we still teaching in a way that matches how this generation actually learns? Hello, teachers, educators, and everyone who cares about the future of education. Welcome to the Serba Serbi Sekolah Podcast, a podcast where we talk about education, teaching strategies, and the changing world of learning. My name is Asep Koswara, and today's episode is little bit special. This is actually the first episode of this podcast in English. And today we are going to talk about something that almost every teacher is experiencing today. How do we teach Generation Z effectively in the classroom? Because the reality is students we teach today are very different from the student we taught 20 years ago. Let's go back for a moment. 20 or 30 years ago, if a student wanted to find information, what did they do? They went to a library. They searched for books. They flipped through pages. Sometimes it took hours just to find one piece of information. But today, a student just takes out a smartphone, types a few words, and within seconds, information from all over the world appears. This is the word of Generation Z. People who were born roughly between 1997 and 2012. They are the first generation in history to grow up completely surrounded by digital technology. They have never experienced a world without Wi Fi, social media, Google, YouTube, or smartphones. And this digital environment has not only changed technology, it has also changed how their brains process information. There, there's a well-known study from Microsoft that suggests the average human attention spent today is around 8 seconds. Now that number is often debated, but the main idea is clear. Today's learners are used to fast, dynamic, and highly visual information. So when learning becomes slow, passive, or repetitive, their attention naturally shifts somewhere else. But that doesn't mean they cannot focus. It simply means they focus differently. The famous education expert Sir Ken, Sir Ken Robinson once said something very powerful. He said, the problem with education is not that students are not interested in learning. The problem is that school often fails to capture their imagination. And I think that idea is very relevant today because Generation Z is actually a very creative generation. They learn from YouTube tutorials. They join online communities. They explore knowledge through digital platforms. Some of them even use artificial intelligence tools to learn new things. So the problem is not that they don't want to learn. The challenge is whether our teaching methods still inspire them to learn. So, what can teachers actually do? What strategies work better for Generation Z? Let me share a few simple ideas. First, microlearning. Instead of long explanations, break learning into smaller segments. Short videos, quick discussions, interactive quizzes, small pieces of knowledge that are easier to absorb. Second, project-based learning. Generation Z likes learning that feels meaningful. They want to see the connection between school and the real life. So instead of just memorizing information, let them create something, a project, a solution, a product, something real. Third, use technology wisely. Tools like AI, virtual reality, and collaborative platforms can make learning much more engaging. But technology should never replace the teacher. Technology should support the teacher. But at the end of the day, teaching Generation Z is not only about technology. The most important thing is still human connection. Research from the Harvard Graduate School of Education show that students who feel connected to their teachers are much more motivated to learn. Students want to feel heard, understood, valued. When teachers create that kind of connection, the classroom becomes more than just a place for lessons. It becomes a place where students grow. So maybe today is a good moment for us as educators to reflect. Are our teaching methods still aligned with how students learn today? Are we creating learning experiences that inspire curiosity? Because education is not only about transferring knowledge. Education is about preparing the next generation for the future. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with fellow teachers and educators. And don't forget to follow the Serba Serbi Sekolah Podcast for more conversation about education and teaching. This is Asep Koswara. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.